It's a very complex conversation because at one extreme you have Russians or Iranians putting in real fake news, trying to destroy our system. Certainly you want a Google and a Facebook to try to guard against that. Then you have the next layer, which is the strange paranoid sites like Alex Jones, which I don't know why conservatives would defend, because he's not particularly conservative. He just believes people in sort of mass shootings had faked it, that sort of thing. You want to stop that. What happens, though, is when Google or Facebook decide they want to incent sort of responsible news, and people's definition of responsible is different. Some people feel differently. However, I just searched Trump on Google News. First thing that pops up is Fox News. Then CNBC, CNN, a few others. It tends to skew to the bigger outlets because Google is an algorithm. It's not some political organization trying to point you to places. And the algorithm says, here's where most people are pointing to these days, and we've gathered that up. So it's complicated, and you don't want to regulate it, but you have to be careful that there's not bias creeping in.
Yeah, Walter, I mean, a lot of the discussion that came out of this, first of all, that yes, of course, this is, the president likes to kind of portray himself as a victim of the mass of the media. But on the other hand, you had to kind of follow it along and say, well, what could potentially be done in terms of looking at the Google algorithm? And it would seem as if you'd have to say, well, Google has such massive market power that they are misusing it in some way, and therefore you can, by extension, say that the government should have some say in how, in fact, it directs. But do you think people at Google, at the other companies, are genuinely having to game this out, or are you just waiting for it to pass?
Well, I don't think you're going to have regulation anytime soon. In fact, I don't think you can have any legislation that's going to be able to pass on this anytime soon. But as Carl knows, on this show, we have often debated whether or not companies like Google or Facebook, just by getting so big, present a problem. For example, when Google is able to ease out other people who are doing restaurant rankings or travel sites because Google results pops up its own and it's better for the consumer. People say, well, it's not anti-competitive because it's better for the consumer, but it allows Google to grow. Likewise, when Facebook does that or buys Instagram. I think you get, though, a problem when a Facebook or a Google becomes so big and so dominant, it does control what we do. For example, when I was at CNN, if people didn't like CNN, you saw the growth of Fox News for people who thought CNN was too far to the left. You saw the growth of MSNBC when people thought CNN was too centrist or whatever. Anyway, that gave competition. It's impossible right now to see competition for Google News search, or for that matter for Facebook. But I think in the long run, we have to have policies that discourage hugeness and promote competition, and that will be the long-term solution to this problem. So if people don't like Google searches, they could find an alternative search engine.
Yeah, they're out there, or at least they were, but certainly not getting enough oxygen with Google in the room. Walter, I'm curious to know what you think of Facebook's actions in Myanmar, banning that military chief, and then some of the accounts that Twitter continues to delete. How do they use that as an argument when asked about policing content next week?
That's where it gets to be difficult. Of course, I like what they've done in Myanmar. That's my own instincts. We don't like really bad, repressive, cruel dictatorships controlling the news. However, once you go down that path, you have to figure out, where are you going to draw the line? Are you going to, stop sites in the United States that you might feel are too repressive, anti-Semitic, hateful? Well, yeah, you do try to do that. All of life, all decisions like this are about where you draw lines, and it's become more difficult in this day and age to do it. I think people like Facebook and Twitter should take responsibility for what's on their platform. Therefore, I do think they should ban people that are hateful or cause deep problems to our, to our system of government. However, I think that's you got to tread carefully there, and that's something the president said.